Aloha, cupcakes. Today I'm going to be working with the VonDago Pro Series. My board is dirty. And we're going to be using Alpha 6's. This is one of the lighter blues. It actually just says custom color on the side of the bottle. So it's blue, but it's not as blue as the other two blues. Because, yeah, I'm not 100% sure on it. It flows really well. Anyhow, this is the VonDago Pro Series. This is a 000, so it's a little bit thinner than the other two brushes that I've been using for this test. This thing is a mixed hair or blended hair brush, so it's part synthetic and part squirrel hair, which makes it oodles of fun. It's almost identical to the size of the Blue Wraps, a little bit thinner at the hilt, and then the brushes themselves are tapered a little differently. So it's got a sharper point to it. Now, it also has a black coated handle. So it's similar to the wrapped handles, just it's got a black coating on there, which is that. Which, depending on how you hold it and depending on how you work and depending on you as a person, this may be more slippery and it may be more grippy. It completely depends on you and your textures on things. The best way for me to describe whether or not you should use this is to try it. Now, I will say that for a 000, or using a 000 for me, the brush seems kind of floppy. It's not really my favorite thing. I prefer a little bit more of a rigid brush because I have a little bit more control. More to the point, it's easier for me to control. Don't know if you can tell from the video here, but I'm not a small person, so controlling little tiny things is its own challenge, I will say. Now, the brush itself, because of the way that it's shaped, because of the way it's trimmed, and because of the way that it is created as a whole, produces very smooth, even lines without a whole lot of work. Now, I did trim this brush a little bit because there was like one hair that was just wonky, but ultimately you do not or you should not need to necessarily trim this one a whole lot. That's the whole thing about it being manicured or tailored or trimmed. Or you're supposed to be able to work with this brush right out of the box. That's what I'm getting at. Now, I've been working with these ones for quite a while. I haven't exactly gotten to one that was this thin. I think I usually work with either the 1 or the 0, which is pretty typical for me and my brush sizes. This notion of me trying to use a thinner brush is daunting, to say the least. Now, what's interesting about that is that because of the way that I pull lines, the way that I don't completely ride just on the very tip of things, even with a thinner brush, I'm still pulling some fairly dense looking lines. Part of that is intentional, part of that is just how my hand works. You can pull thin lines with this thing if you really, really want to not see your work. It's fine. I'll let you. Now, one of the things that I am working with this one is that I did not reduce the paint. So I want to see how long I can go just going for it. And yeah, I keep re-paletting it, and I might squeegee it here and there. But for the most part, I'm just running with it without reducing things. And just so we're clear about this one, I'm up in northern Nevada. My regular humidity during this time of year is about 15 to 18%, if I'm lucky. So I do run a swamp cooler just so it's not completely bone dry out here. But it's always a test just to see if reducer even does anything here. I mean, there are times where even working just here in my garage, I still have to get out turpentine just to get things to clean off my brushes. That's just the nature of being here. So understand that when you're using this brush and trying to not reduce or to reduce as little as possible, that's not my highest of recommends because you have to know your humidity levels, basically. Just don't. Use your reducers. It's fine. I'm doing this because I want to see how far I can go. Just don't. Now, I'm noticing here in this line and a little bit in the line right before it, the lack of reducer is starting to gum up on me a tiny bit. So I'm pulling shorter and shorter lines just because that's where they're starting to die out. And that's really what I wanted to see with this one. Because I started off doing some fairly long lines with it. And let's give it a shot and see. Yeah, it's starting to get gummy towards the tail end of that one. 5 minutes isn't bad. Typically speaking, when I'm working with paint, I'm usually at about 3 minutes before I have to start pulling reducer. So being able to actually pull this one at 3, this is it's Alpha's blend, and it's one of their custom colors, and I'm starting to see the use of some of these lighter colors around here. Because this brush gives me the ability to actually see what the paint is really doing as opposed to what I'm doing or what the brush is doing. It's a better control than some of the other brushes that don't handle thin or straight lines as well. Now, overall, I would say that this is, if we're still comparing the Mac 10 and 20 series brush, I would never choose one of those over this. This has been one of my go-to brushes for, I don't know, whenever it is that VonDago came up with these things. I was really lucky to get on one of the first orders or first prototypes or whatever batch of brushes he was carrying around in a little bag in his pocket. And I've been sold on these ever since. I will be posting up a video of the Alien Deathhawk, so I have a little bit of a comparison, because that's my newer brush that has been doing the same work that this one does. It was highly recommended, and honestly, I'm just a fan of using it because of the way that it tapers. And I'm trying to get this one to taper the same way now that I've discovered that I can do that. It kind of works. It's a little bit easier, but it could also just be that I need to learn a little bit more of how I want to do things with this brush. Because try to do freestyling pinstriping versus having a plan of some sort, it's messy. Like, some of the lines don't work. Some of this design itself is just a disaster because I'm trying to see what the brush will do. So, in summary, get one, try one, love one, put it up against your blue wraps and your green wraps, and just enjoy using a better brush, please. That's the best thing I can tell you about this one. Dago's easy. His website's easy. His shipping is usually pretty freaking fast, and I mean, like, faster than Amazon fast. So he's got a high level of support from me. He always has. And this is definitely a brush that I highly recommend everyone try out. So until the next video, stay moist, my friends.